The air at Outpost Jericho always carried the taste of dust and something heavier. Doubt, maybe. We'd lost 3 patrols in 2 weeks. The ridgelines around the city of Namar kept swallowing squads whole. No bodies, no gear, just silence and blood on the comms. They called it Shadow Ground. I walked into the ops tent that morning like I always did, quiet, boots clean, gear squared away, no wasted motion. It was barely dawn, but the command staff was already gathered, hunched over maps and satellite feeds. Their faces told the story before anyone spoke. Another patrol hadn't checked in. A few Navy SEALs were lounging near the rear, slouched in chairs like this was still peacetime. One of them saw me and elbowed his buddy. I heard the whisper even before he smirked. "Is that her? The one with the ghost call sign?" A ripple of laughter rolled through them, like they didn't believe their own question. I'm used to it. I don't walk like a legend. I'm 5'7", built like a runner, not a wall. Nothing about me says ghost, unless you've been where I've been, or seen what I've done when the sky turns red and bullets sing. Colonel Marcus Dreyer stood at the far end of the tent. Old-school warhorse, chest full of ribbons, face like carved oak. He didn't look up at first, just kept circling a point on the map with a pencil, over and over, like he could wear down the paper and maybe change the outcome. When he did look up, his eyes locked onto me like twin searchlights. There was no warmth there, just calculation. "You," he said, voice like gravel and gunpowder. "Step forward." I did. Every pair of eyes followed me now. Some skeptical, some curious. A few laced with something closer to dread. "Name and unit," Dreyer barked. "Staff Sergeant Alina Ward," I said. 75th Recon, 1st Detachment. His jaw clenched. "Call sign." I knew this moment would come. The SEALs leaned in. The officers went still. Even the air itself seemed to pull tight, like a drawn bowstring. "Whisper 7, I said. It landed like a thunderclap. Every scrap of laughter vanished. Chairs creaked as men sat up straighter. Someone's hand fell away from their coffee cup like it had suddenly become too heavy to hold. Colonel Dreyer froze. I'd seen that look before, the flicker of memory. He'd heard it, same as the others. Reports with half-redacted names. Missions scrubbed from the books. Survivors muttering about a shadow that moved like smoke and bled like none of them. "Whisper 7, he repeated, voice low now. I thought that was just radio myth. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The men who joked a minute ago weren't laughing anymore. One of them, the loudest, was suddenly studying his boots like they might offer an escape. Dreyer circled the table, slow. "You realize the weight that name carries?" "Yes, sir." He stopped inches from me. "You think that kind of name is a badge? A shield? Legends don't last, Sergeant. They crack. And when they do, they take others with them." "I don't break," I said. Not with defiance. Just fact. The room stayed silent long after. No one had anything to say, because they all knew the truth. I wasn't a myth anymore. They say you don't really meet a city until it tries to kill you. Namar introduced itself with teeth. It was supposed to be a routine patrol. Narrow alleys. Kids peeking from broken windows. Dust clinging to your lungs like regret. I took point. My rifle was steady, my senses sharper than they'd ever teach in a briefing. The others moved behind me. Young, good men, still half believing this would be simple. None of them saw what I did. Not right away. The silence was wrong. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that presses on your chest like a held breath. And I knew. We were already inside the kill zone. The first shot snapped past my ear like a whisper with murder in its breath. I dove, rolled behind a shattered pillar, and called it out. Ambush. Chaos exploded around us. Gunfire from windows, from rooftops. Muzzle flashes painting shadows on the walls. One of ours went down screaming, blood blooming on the stone beneath him. The rest scattered for cover, scrambling into dead-end alcoves and burned-out doorways. We were funneled perfectly. No way forward. No way back. I could hear panic clawing at the edges of the squad's voices. I don't panic. Not anymore. I dropped flat, eyes scanning every possible angle. There, they'd missed a slice. A blind spot in the overlapping fire arcs. Less than a meter wide, but enough if I moved like I meant it. I went low, crawling through debris and broken glass. The rounds hissed past me, hot enough to singe air. I moved like smoke. No sound, no wasted motion. Came up behind the rooftop team that thought they had us pinned. One squeeze of the trigger, then another. 3 bodies slumped before the last could shout. From there, I was a ghost, sliding across the rooftops like a rumor. 12 shooters fell in sequence. Each one dropped before they could turn. Below, the gunfire thinned, confusion spreading among the enemy like fire through dry brush. And then I heard it. One of my guys, young, green, pinned behind a wrecked truck, muttered over comms. "It's her. It's Whisper 7. She's real." The squad surged. The street we couldn't cross minutes ago opened like a gate. They moved, dragging the wounded, covering each other like they'd trained for years. Because now they believed the impossible was watching their backs. By the time I rejoined them, my hands were scratched, my rifle was hot, and my vest was coated in the city's grime. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. No one had died. Not one. Later, I heard the whispers start to spread again. In the chow tent. In the armory. Around the fire pits at night. A name breathed with quiet awe. Whisper 7. When we got back from that alley, every man in the squad walked taller, but quieter. You could feel it shift. Not just in them, in the whole base. Word traveled faster than intel in a firefight. The ones who used to smirk when I passed now stood a little straighter. Some nodded. One even saluted. That's when I got the summons. Colonel Dreyer didn't like shadows. He liked clean chains of command, war by the book, and legends with dates of death. I stepped into his office and found him already standing, arms crossed over his chest. He didn't wave me in. Didn't offer a seat. "You were seen," he said. I didn't answer. "You disobeyed the engagement plan. You broke from formation." "I did what was required to keep them alive, sir." He stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "You ever think about what happens next? What the rest of those Marines believe now? They think you're invincible, that you can't bleed. And when that illusion breaks, you'll take others down with you." I let his words sit. Let them sting. Then I answered with the same quiet conviction I carried into every mission. "Then I won't break." That made him pause, just for a heartbeat. I saw the shift in his jaw, the tightening of his throat. Not disbelief, recognition. He'd heard those words before, maybe from someone who didn't make it. "You think that's all it takes?" he asked. "Conviction?" "No," I said. "It takes scars. And I've earned mine." He turned his back, staring out the dusty window toward the motor pool where my squad was rearming. When he finally spoke again, his voice was lower. "Less bark. More bone. I've read your file. The real one. The black folder with more redactions than text." He turned back. "I know about Suleiman Hill. About the evac that never came. About the 7 bodies you carried 2 clicks uphill under fire." I didn't move. I didn't blink. "That was 3 years ago," he said. "You were listed as combat ineffective. Transferred to rear-line recon. They said you were done." I said. "Until the next fight found me." He studied me for a long while. Then, for the first time, I saw his posture shift. His stance didn't weaken, but it relented. "Very well, Whisper 7, he said. "But understand this. Your myth is no longer yours alone. If you fall, it will crush the ones who believe in it." "Then I'll make sure they never see me fall," I said. And I meant it. They say fear smells like copper and regret. But I've learned it also smells like burning dust, hot metal, and engine oil before a night op. That evening, the ops tent was heavy with movement. A young lieutenant sprinted in, face pale, holding a dispatch like it was a live grenade. Colonel Dreyer read it once, twice, then looked up at me. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. "Recon Delta's gone dark. Last ping was 18 minutes ago. Western edge of Namar. Same pattern. No comms. No movement." The tent hushed. Maps unrolled fast. Officers circled points with trembling markers. The pattern was becoming clear. Same ambush profile. Same loss of contact. The same place we were never supposed to enter again. Shadow ground. Dreyer didn't hesitate. "Ward, you're on point." A few of the SEALs shifted uneasily, eyes flitting from me to the map. One of them leaned to another and whispered, "Guess we'll find out if the myth holds up." I just nodded. "Yes, sir." 10 minutes later, I was rolling out in the lead convoy vehicle. Inside, silence ruled. No one joked. No one filled the quiet with useless noise. Even the SEALs who once laughed at my name were double-checking gear with unsteady hands. They'd seen what I could do, but now they needed to believe it wasn't a fluke. The outskirts of Namar were different at night. No electricity. Just moonlight on broken stone and whispers of wind between shattered buildings. We rolled with headlights off, red filters on. Low-noise engines, tires soft over gravel. Every bump felt like a landmine waiting to laugh. I sat near the rear door of the armored vehicle, helmet down, eyes closed. Not sleeping, not even resting. Mapping. Playing the last known route of Recon Delta over and over in my mind, scanning for the same angles, the same mistakes. The ones we wouldn't repeat. When we reached the first ruins, Dreyer's voice crackled over the comms. Whisper 7. Led them in. I slid out, boots sinking into the fine dust that covered everything here like ash. My hand went up. One motion. The squad moved behind me without hesitation. Not because I was rank. Because they'd seen the impossible already and were willing to follow it again. The alleys of Namar opened ahead, tight and silent, like a throat waiting to choke. A dog barked once in the distance. Then silence returned, louder than before. One of the SEALs behind me whispered, "Feels like a trap." It was, but they weren't the ones walking into it. We were hunting it. I halted the column with one raised fist. The street was too quiet, too still. No wind, no echoes. The kind of silence that falls when eyes are watching and triggers are waiting. Positions, I whispered into the comms. The squad obeyed without hesitation. They spread, covering arcs, rifles steady, breath tight. I could feel the weight of trust behind me, the pressure to see what they couldn't, to be more than human for just a few more minutes. And then it hit. The crack of a rifle shot tore the stillness in two. A Marine hit the dirt, his scream swallowed by the roar of automatic fire raining from every angle. Snipers. Left. Top right. Someone shouted. But shouting didn't matter now. Namar erupted. Windows became teeth. Rooftops turned into nests of muzzle flashes. The air filled with smoke and noise. My squad dove for cover behind broken walls and overturned carts. One SEAL dragged the wounded Marine behind a half-collapsed door. We were pinned. Again. But this time, we weren't the prey. I moved. Not fast, precise. I traced angles between flashes, memorizing patterns. There, a breach in the enemy field of fire. Small, crumbling wall. Climbable. Just barely. Cover me, I said into comms. No one argued. Rifles lifted. Fire shifted. I sprinted low, boots hammering broken stone. The bullets came like bees, furious, chaotic, biting at air. I climbed the fractured wall, fingers biting into cracks. At the top, I rolled onto the rooftop and came face to face with the first sniper team. 3 of them, laughing, relaxed. They never heard me coming. One shot, one fall, another. The third tried to turn. Too slow. I vanished before the first body hit the roof. From there, I was smoke again. A flicker between buildings. Every position I took felt temporary, borrowed. Every shot I fired ended something before it could begin. Below, I could feel the shift. The chaos was cracking. She's clearing them, someone whispered. I heard it even through the fight. She's really clearing them. One rooftop at a time, the fire stopped. The shadows blinked out. And suddenly, there was space. A way forward. Push left, a Marine shouted. The squad surged, dragging the wounded, clearing corners with fire discipline like veterans. I covered them from above. Not with noise, but with purpose. Each shot was a decision. Each decision meant life. When the last rooftop fell quiet, my rifle clicked dry. We were still standing. All of us. We limped back into base under a bruised sky, the armored convoy coated in the city's dust, the smell of gunpowder and sweat still clinging to every surface. No one spoke on the ride back. Not because there was nothing to say, but because none of it would be enough. We had all lived. That truth sat heavier than most could process. When the gates opened and the floodlights washed over us, medics rushed to the wounded, boots thudded on concrete. But everyone, watched me step down from the lead vehicle. This time, no one laughed. No one whispered. They just moved aside. Inside the ops tent, it was standing room only. The same SEALs who used to smirk now stood stiff against the walls. The same junior officers who once questioned my presence now looked away when I entered. And Colonel Dreyer, he was already waiting. Arms folded, face unreadable. But this time, there was no hostility in his eyes. Just the heavy silence of a man who's watched too many promises break, and maybe just witnessed one hold. I stood at attention. He didn't speak right away. Then, just one word. Whisper. The whole room seemed to exhale at once. You brought every man back alive, he said. No ceremony. No speech. Just fact. And from Colonel Dreyer, fact was sacred. He nodded once. A sharp, deliberate motion. The kind of gesture that replaced 100 words. From a man like him, it might as well have been a medal. I returned the nod with a salute. Sharp, precise, unshaking. He returned it. And in that moment, the name stopped being mine alone. It belonged to the men still breathing because of it. That night, I sat alone on a sandbag wall behind the barracks. The stars looked different after a fight. Clearer, maybe. Or maybe it was just the air up there, too thin for lies. I field-stripped my rifle by feel. A ritual more than maintenance. My hands moved with muscle memory built on survival. The door to the barracks opened behind me. I didn't look. I didn't need to. Footsteps stopped a few feet back. Then a quiet voice, one of the SEALs from earlier. The loud one. The doubter. "You saved us all," he said. I didn't respond. Then softer. "They said Whisper 7 was just a myth. That no one could fight like that. That you were made up." I finally looked at him. Just enough to meet his eyes. "Do you believe that now?" He shook his head. "I don't know what I believe, but I know what I saw." I turned back to the stars. "Good. Because what matters is that you're still here to decide." He left without another word. That's the thing about whispers. They travel far, but they don't need to shout to be remembered. The next morning, I was back in the training yard before the sun cracked over the cliffs. Quiet drills. Rifle work. Movement in confined space. Most didn't bother training before first light, except those who knew dawn could come with blood. A young Marine watched me from the far side of the lot. New boots. Nervous stance. He waited until I paused before walking over. "Staff Sergeant Ward." He started, trying to keep his voice steady. "Is it true you took down 12 firing positions alone?" I looked him over, not dismissively. Just honestly. "What do you think?" He hesitated. "I think it sounds impossible." "It is," I said. "Until it's not." He stood a little straighter. "Then I want to learn." I gave him a nod. "Then stop asking about ghosts and start acting like someone who might become one." He didn't blink. He just nodded and fell in a step behind me. That's how it starts. Not with orders. With choice. By noon, rumors had spread again. Not just of Whisper 7 clearing rooftops, but of something worse, something current. 2 UAVs had picked up strange movement in Sector 12, right where Namar's outskirts faded into the desert. Movement too small to be convoys, too precise to be strays. Dreyer summoned me and a few others into the tent. The map was already marked with red tape. "We think it's a scout cell," he said. "Unmarked. No affiliation. Might be a forward spotter team for something bigger." He turned toward me. "They're using the alley systems we cleared 3 nights ago. We need someone who can move through them again without being seen." I already knew where this was going. "Covert?" I asked. He nodded. "No support. No backup unless you request it. Identify and disrupt." A few of the officers flinched at the words. They'd seen what that kind of mission looked like on paper afterward, usually with heavy redactions and high body counts. "Alone?" one asked. Dreyer looked at me, then back to the table. "She's not going in as a Marine." "What then?" the officer asked. Dreyer's tone dropped. "She's going in as Whisper 7. I prepped in silence. 1 suppressed rifle. Light loadout. Knife, sidearm, shadow black camo. I moved like I always did, deliberate, focused. No one stopped me. A few watched, but none spoke. Just before I stepped out of the motor pool gates, Dreyer's voice came over the comms. "You don't need to prove anything." "I'm not," I said. "I was just doing what I was made for." Outside, the desert air felt cold even under the sun. Not from temperature, from memory. The path to Sector 12 wasn't just dirt and stone. It was haunted, and I was walking straight into the ghosts. The alleys of Sector 12 hadn't changed, but they felt different. Tighter. Heavier. Like they remembered the blood I'd spilled last time I passed through them. I moved low. Quiet. Ghost quiet. The kind of quiet that makes even dogs stop barking. The streets were dry veins twisting through the skeleton of old Namar. Broken shops, blown-out balconies, concrete pocked with holes that told old stories and scars. I passed a half-crushed school bus covered in dust and silence. No movement, but I felt the eyes. They were watching, not from above, from below. I dropped flat near a gutted doorway and waited. Let the silence speak. And then I saw it, just a flicker. A glint of something metallic shifting under a rug in a shaded corridor across the street. They weren't just scouting. They were nesting. I slipped around the alley's edge, flanking the structure like water through a crack. My boot didn't make a sound. My breath was a whisper. Through a shattered window, I saw them, 6 of them. Not local militia. Not insurgents. No markings. No insignia. Just clean gear, disciplined postures, suppressed weapons. Professional. Unaffiliated. Ghosts in the making. But there was something more. They had satellite relays. And a drone tucked inside a half-open crate. Not just scouting. They were mapping comm routes. They were planning something big. I didn't wait. 3 breaths. 3 shots. Fast. Surgical. 2 down before they even knew I was inside. The rest scattered. But the building was mine. I moved through it like a bad memory. Close quarters now. Tight corners. Breach and clear rhythm. My knife found one before he could alert another. My sidearm handled the next. The last one tried to radio out. He didn't finish the first syllable. When it was done, I swept the building. Documents. Drives. Coordinates. Just enough to confirm the worst. They were target mapping Outpost Jericho. They knew our patterns. Our routines. And they weren't working alone. I transmitted the findings, tagging the building for recovery. Dreyer came through the comms. Casualties. None on our side, I said. On theirs. Oh. He paused. Then, acknowledged. Extraction route? I'll make my own. I turned toward the shadows of the next alley. My breath steady. My rifle warm. I wasn't done. Not until every ghost was silenced. By the time I made it back to Outpost Jericho, the sky had turned the color of bruised copper. Dust rolled in sheets across the base perimeter, coating everything in a fine veil. Gear, trucks, faces. Even silence felt heavier under that sky. The intel I brought back was worse than expected. Dreyer met me on the tarmac near the comm tower, his face carved from stone. He read the drive himself. Twice. Then he called a full command briefing within the hour. The room filled fast. SEALs. Recon. Logistics. Even 2 drone analysts from HQ. And me, standing against the far wall like a shadow that had decided to listen. These weren't local fighters, Dreyer began. They were special trained scouts. Likely private contractors. Their mission was to map comms and response times. Our response times. He pointed at a cluster of red XS on the map. This isn't recon. This is prep. They were softening the area for a hard strike. A murmur moved through the room. One officer asked, "What kind of hard?" Dreyer didn't blink. A convoy intercept. Maybe more. Possibly the base itself. He looked toward me now. Not with suspicion. With weight. The kind you don't put on someone unless you trust them to carry it. They knew our schedule, I said. Our dead zones. Jericho's blind spots. How? Another officer asked. I let the silence answer that. Until one Marine near the front muttered what no one wanted to say. We've got a leak. Dreyer didn't confirm it. He didn't need to. Instead, he looked at me. What do you need? I didn't hesitate. A team. Small. Quiet. You pick them. And the mission? He asked. We hit their staging point before they hit ours. I saw fresh crates when I cleared that safe house. Which means they've got a supply line. Someone feeding them from inside Namar. Dreyer nodded once. Then we cut the line. 3 hours later, I was back in the field. 5 others moved with me. 2 SEALs who'd stopped questioning. 1 comm tech who barely blinked in the face of war. And Sergeant Linares, my spotter from 2 tours back, pulled in special. We moved under moonlight, each shadow heavier than the last. Namar's western edge was boiling. Enemy scouts were setting up relay beacons now. Quiet signals, tucked into air vents, gutters, and sewer lids. It wasn't just prep anymore. It was countdown. We breached the staging site at 0200. Clean. Quick. Just like before. Except this time, someone was waiting. The firefight erupted with precision. Not chaos. Not like the insurgents. These guys had drilled for this. Ambushes inside ambushes. Every move we made mirrored by resistance. They knew us. And that's when I realized. We weren't just disrupting their plan. We were the plan. A trap inside a trap. Someone had fed them our loadout. Our timing. Our exit route. Someone in uniform. We fought our way out of the staging site like men and women climbing out of the grave. Linares took a round through the shoulder. One of the SEALs caught shrapnel across his leg. The rest of us moved like instinct, pure and sharp. We didn't retreat. We extracted. Every round I fired was aimed to create space, not kill. We weren't here to win this fight. We were here to survive it and take back the one thing they hadn't counted on. Proof. The crate we hauled out held more than weapons. It held names, schedules, deployment logs. One in particular made me stop. Someone had highlighted Jericho's drone patrol gaps. 3 specific times. All recent. Someone with clearance. Back at base, I delivered it to Dreyer personally. He read the list in silence. Then looked at me. You're sure? They knew our footprints, sir. They knew the call signs we haven't even used yet. Someone on the inside drew them a map. He clenched the folder. I'll have counter-intel verify. I didn't argue. I didn't need to. Because deep down, he already knew. That night, I sat in the same place I always did, on the sandbag wall behind the barracks. My rifle beside me. My vest unbuckled. Stars above, silent and watching. Another Marine joined me after a while. Not a SEAL. Not recon. Just one of the base's youngest, fresh from training. Helmet too big for his head. Is it true, he asked. You were ambushed inside the ambush. I nodded. But you got out. We all did, I said. That's the only thing that matters. He hesitated. They say you're not scared of anything. I shook my head. They're wrong. What are you scared of? I looked toward the fence, toward the city beyond. The broken places. The silent traps. The people who wear your uniform but sell your blood. Of not seeing it in time, I said. He didn't reply. Just sat with me for a moment longer. Then left, quieter than he'd arrived. The next morning, the traitor was gone. No word. No arrest. Just gone. Like the system had decided silence was cleaner than truth. But everyone on that base knew what had happened. And everyone knew who had dragged the truth into the light. The whispers changed after that. They weren't just about the rooftops. They weren't just about the shots. They were about the price of knowing, and choosing to pay it anyway. Whisper 7 wasn't a ghost anymore. She was the shadow that kept others alive. And maybe that's the closest thing to peace we ever get in places like Namar. As long as someone watches from the dark and doesn't blink first. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.